Right, well, the Department of Basic Education and Voyolwethu's Haven are hosting a gala dinner later this evening at the Houghton Hotel here in Johannesburg to mark Autism Awareness Month, and the event will emphasize, of course, the need for inclusive education as well as honor the current efforts of educators, families and even caregivers of autistic learners. And we do have Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwarube, who will also be delivering the keynote address later on. But she's here to tell us all about this exciting event later on this evening. So, Minister, welcome back. So, we were actually talking about the role that you think public awareness events such as Autism Awareness Month actually play in changing societal attitudes towards autism. Are they really effective in driving the key message across and also creating the relevant awareness?
The reality is that, good afternoon to you and your viewers. The reality is that government could do everything that it can and with all its resources, unless we change societal attitudes towards learners and children with special needs, we're never really going to change the culture. You'll remember not so long ago in our country where children with special needs or even people with special needs would be essentially stigmatized, hidden behind closed doors because of the stigma that exists. And so we're saying as a department that we want to change that. We want to, one, create inclusive education, one that doesn't just cater for a prototype of a learner, but that caters for all learners on whichever spectrum, on whatever needs that they may have. And in fact, I am really convicted about this because I have, in the last 9 months that I've been in office, been really visiting a whole lot of schools, including our special schools, and we are seeing some incredible work that is coming from them. We are seeing learners who are honing these skills, learners who would be able to, given the opportunity, go to a school of special skills, acquire a skill, and actually be able to live a life of dignity by going on to the world of work. And that is the work that we are wanting to do, not only to create awareness, but also to create the kind of legislative and policy changes that we need in our system to make sure that our education is inclusive and also caters for all kinds of learners.
Absolutely, Minister, because please, if you can share some of your department's current as well as specific policies or even initiatives that are focusing to improve autism in the basic education sector, as well as other plans currently afoot to address other mental, physical disabilities at basic schooling level. Because, I mean, you're so right. I mean, specialized schooling in the country at this stage is still a challenge. From getting your child actually placed at a school, Minister, we know some parents actually have to take their child to a specialized school in another province where they don't even have overseeing powers as well as the care of that individual child.
Quite right. And this is why you have seen in the past 2 years, there's been an increased funding when it comes to what we call one of my key priorities in office for the 7th administration, what we call inclusive education. We've seen increased funding to that budget line item because we know that South Africa is not where it should be. We know we are not catering for all our learners that have special needs and that require us to create safe learning environments for them. That's the one thing. And so on the one side, I think it's putting government's money where its mouth is, and saying we are not only just following up a strategy, we're saying that here's a budget line item. Number two, I think it's also just important that even with the existing special schools for learners with special needs, be it autism or any other special needs, we are saying that these learners are incredibly talented. It would be a disservice, not just to these children who are protected, by the way, by the Constitution. It would be a pity, and it would be robbing South Africa of, one, opportunities to get those skills from them. Number two, it would be robbing them of potential futures. As I was saying to you, that in as much as we're not where we need to be, I think the recognition that there needs to be inclusive education in our country, one that caters for learners with special needs, is one that is at the forefront. Because my dream is to be able to see a child go to school, even with special needs, acquire a skill, as I've seen many of these learners do, get a certificate that says this learner has acquired this specific skill. They're able to go to work. They're able to live a life of dignity for themselves, where they are not just dependent on their families for the rest of their lives. That is the power of creating inclusive education. partnered up with the public awareness campaigns. I think it's not good enough for government to say we're creating public awareness. We're saying to members of the community that these are your children, and these are not children that should be hidden. These are people who should be embraced. But we have to make sure that we ourselves as government show that commitment. And secondly, the last thing is that we have established a ministerial task team on inclusive education, which seeks to really see where are weak points in the education system, where, as you say, one of the key things is access. Are we creating sufficient access for learners with special needs? And the other issue is around, even when they do have that kind of access, are we making sure that there are requisite teachers who are qualified, who are experts in this kind of work? Thirdly, are we making sure that the infrastructure is good? Because there have been schools where I've been to where I can see that good work is being done, but they require the requisite infrastructure, ramps, and various other things in the schools to make it more inclusive. So for me, really, this is a constitutional imperative. It's not a feel-good or an add-on to the work that we do. It is at the very core of what we should be doing, which is recognizing the constitutional right of every single child in South Africa to get an education of quality, regardless of what their needs are.
Absolutely. Minister, you spoke of those weak points there. So let's talk about them. What challenges still remain in making education fully accessible and inclusive to all learners, as you put it? I mean, you recently went on a fact-finding mission across the country to find out exactly what some of the issues are in those various schools learners and teachers were actually dealing with, especially those with autism. And how can these challenges then be overcome?
And you're absolutely right. I mean, there are challenges. I think the first challenge, of course, is the number of schools that are available in each province, the number of no-fee paying schools. Because it's one thing if you're an affluent South African, you can probably buy your child an education that is inclusive outside of the public education system. But the reality is that the majority of South Africans require these services available to them without a fee. So in making sure that there's access, there's enough special schools around the country to cater for learners with special needs. Number two, that those schools are well equipped. Number three, that they are well staffed. As you can imagine, the kind of work that is required for a school like that to function is quite specific, and you need people with specific skills to be able to staff those schools. Number three, for me, and this is something that is tangible that we can do within the next financial year, is to make sure that children who go to schools children who have special needs are able to acquire skills. It's not good enough that children with special needs, particularly something such as autism, for instance, it's not good enough that they go to a school to be looked after. We want to be able to make sure that some of these learners are incredibly smart. And part of the reason why they're on the spectrum is because of their extraordinary intellectual abilities. And so we have to be able to get to a point where we're sophisticated enough, one, from as early as at the ECD level, be able to see a child that may have autism, that may be on the spectrum. How then do we refer them to the right channels within the education system? What kind of needs do they have? And so the challenges are multi-dimensional. I think for me, one of the things that we look up.
All right, I think I'm losing the minister once again. Minister, can you still hear me? All right, it looks like we're going to leave it there with the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwarube. She was talking to us about, of course, schools prioritizing and also catering for autism students. Well, not just autism students, but those students, of course, that have special needs. And we do understand she will be delivering a keynote address at an event to address this very issue later on this evening.